Hey everyone, and welcome back to Sip and Talk.
Grab your drink.
Get comfy.
And get ready.
To dive into some
serious
wild global happenings.
Yeah. Thanks so
much to cover today.
From drones to international drama to some fiery situations.
Ooh, speaking of fiery situations.
Oh no.
You will not believe what happened to me this week.
What happened?
I tried to make this fancy souffle for a dinner party.
Oh, a souffle.
And
those are tricky.
It was a total disaster.
Oh, no.
It deflated faster than my hopes of winning the lottery.
At least the wine was good, right?
Exactly. Always got to have that backup plan.
Speaking of backups.
Tell me.
You will not believe who I ran into at the grocery store.
Okay, was it George Clooney in the produce aisle?
Not quite, but it was someone from my past.
Okay, give me a hint.
My old high school principal.
What are the chances?
I know, right?
Did you hide behind the watermelons?
I almost did, but we ended up chatting for a bit.
Wow. Small world.
He even seemed interested in the podcast.
See, Sip and Talk is taking over the world, one awkward grocery store encounter at a time.
Okay, so enough about our little misadventures.
Let's get to the real news.
Because things are getting wild out there.
Today we're going to try to get to the bottom of some of these really strange news stories.
Yeah, some of these headlines have me scratching my head for sure.
I know, me too. So much going on, right? Okay, so let's jump right in. Why don't we start with something close to home?
Yeah.
There have been all these weird drone sightings over New Jersey.
Yeah, I saw that. It seems like there are a lot of theories floating around out there about what they could be.
I mean, honestly, when I first heard about it, I just figured, maybe it's Amazon testing out some new delivery system.
Yeah.
Or something like that. But the thing is, nobody's claiming them, right?
Yeah, exactly. And our sources mention everything from, like, secret government programs to, even aliens.
Aliens. Come on. Are we really going there?
Hey, I'm just telling you what the sources are saying. Don't shoot the messenger.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
But seriously, though, if it were something like, a government thing or a big company, wouldn't they just, come out and say it?
Well, you'd think so, right? But then again, maybe they want to keep it under wraps for a reason.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for a second. What possible reasons could there be for all this secrecy?
Well, the source material mentions that New Jersey actually saw a pretty big increase in drone operation permits last year. So there are definitely more drones in the air these days. But why all the mystery surrounding these specific ones?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not like drones are a new thing.
Right. So what makes these different? I think that's what's really capturing people's imaginations.
I think you're right. But what about other possibilities?
That's a great question. And the sources actually encourage us to think outside the box on this one.
Okay, I'm game. Hit me with some of those out-of-the-box theories.
Well, for one thing, what if it's just a prank?
A prank? You mean like some kids messing around with their drones?
Exactly. It's not as far-fetched as it might sound. Remember, we live in a world where people will do anything for attention.
True enough. Maybe they're trying to become the next viral sensation with their drone light shows or something.
Who knows? But it's definitely a possibility. And it's a reminder that sometimes the simplest explanation is the right one.
Okay, I can see that. But even if it is just a prank, it still raises some concerns.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the potential for these drones to be used for more malicious purposes.
Yeah, like spying on people or interfering with air traffic. I mean, the possibilities are kind of endless.
They are. And that's why it's so important to have clear regulations and guidelines in place for drone usage.
Totally. I mean, we can't just let people fly these things around willy-nilly. We need to make sure that they're being used safely and responsibly.
Couldn't agree more.
What do you think, listeners? Are we looking at a top-secret government project here, or maybe some kind of corporate espionage?
Yeah.
Or could it be something even weirder?
Hit us up on social media and let us know your theories.
All right, so moving on from the Garden State, let's talk about something a little bit more out there. Trump's idea to buy Greenland.
Oh, yeah, that was a wild one. I thought we were done with that whole Greenland saga.
Right, me too. But apparently it's back on the table. I guess he really wants to add King of Greenland to his resume.
Well, the sources say he's arguing that Greenland has all this strategic value for the U.S., rare earth minerals, that kind of thing.
Okay, so maybe there's more to it than just, a billionaire wanting to own a giant ice cube. But still, how does he think he can actually pull this off?
Well, the source material suggests he's talking about some kind of peaceful acquisition, whatever that means.
Peaceful acquisition. Has he met Denmark? I don't think they're just going to hand over their territory without a fight.
Well, according to the sources, both Denmark and Greenland have already said thanks, but no thanks. They're calling it absurd.
I mean, yeah, it does sound kind of absurd when you put it like that.
Mm.
But let's be real for a second. Greenland does have a lot of valuable resources.
That's true. So maybe there's room for some kind of mutually beneficial partnership instead of, a hostile takeover.
Yeah, maybe. So what do you think, listeners? Is there any way this could actually work out? Or is Trump just chasing a pipe dream?
Let us know what you think.
All right, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about something a little more serious. The wildfires in California.
Oh, yeah, that's just devastating. I can't even imagine what those people are going through.
I know, it's heartbreaking. The sources are saying this is the worst wildfire season they've ever seen, and they're blaming it on a combination of drought, climate change, aging infrastructure, you name it.
It's like a perfect storm of terrible circumstances.
Right. And it's not just the immediate damage either. The source material talks about the long-term economic impact, the impact on tourism, the strain on insurance companies. It's a ripple effect that's going to be felt for years to come.
It really makes you think about the choices we're making and how they affect the environment.
For sure. This is a wake-up call if I've ever seen one. So let's hear from you listeners. What do you think needs to be done to address this issue? It's hard to believe that something like that can happen in our own backyard.
I know. It's a reminder that we're not immune to the effects of climate change.
And it's not just about the environmental damage either. The sources talk about the human cost of these disasters.
Exactly. The loss of life, the displacement, the trauma. It's all incredibly difficult to process.
And it's going to take a long time for those communities to recover.
It is. And it's important that we don't forget about them once the headlines fade away.
I agree. We need to continue to support those who have been affected and work towards solutions that will prevent these kinds of tragedies from happening again.
Well said.
Okay, so ready for something a little more cloak and dagger?
Yeah.
Let's talk about those damaged undersea cables and the whispers about China's involvement.
Ooh, intrigue. This sounds like something straight out of a spy movie.
Right. It's crazy. These cables are like the veins of the internet. They carried all our data, all our communications, and somebody's been messing with them.
Yeah, the sources mention that there's been a string of incidents lately where these cables have been damaged or cut. And while nobody's pointing fingers directly at China, there are definitely some suspicions.
Okay, but hold on a second. If these cables are so important, why aren't they better protected?
Well, it's not as easy as you might think. I mean, these things are underwater for miles and miles. It's not like you can just put a guard dog on them.
True. But still, you'd think there would be some kind of security measures in place.
There are, but the question is, are they enough? And what happens if someone finds a way to bypass them?
That's a scary thought. What do you think, listeners? Is this something we should be worried about? Or are we just being paranoid? Let us know in the comments.
We're dying to hear your take on this one.
All right, so let's wrap up this segment with something a little less doom and gloom. How about we talk about China's economic slowdown and how it's impacting travel trends?
Yeah, I saw that. It seems like fewer people are traveling to China these days, especially from Europe and North America.
Yeah, well, when the economy takes a hit, people tend to tighten their belts. And travel is usually one of the first things to go. But here's the interesting thing. While Western tourism is down, tourism from Southeast Asia is actually on the rise.
Really? That's fascinating. Why do you think that is?
Well, the source material suggests that China might be strategically relaxing visa requirements for certain Southeast Asian countries to try and make up for the loss in Western tourism.
That's a smart move, I guess. But does it really make up for the difference?
Well, that's the thing. The sources say that while the number of Southeast Asian tourists is up, their spending per visitor is actually lower than their Western counterparts.
So more tourists, but less money overall. That doesn't seem like a sustainable solution in the long run.
Right. It's a tricky situation for sure. But it definitely raises some interesting questions about the future of tourism in China.
And about the role of geopolitics in shaping travel trends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is just one example of how everything is connected in today's world.
It really makes you think.
All right, folks, that's it for part 1 of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet. We'll be right back after a quick break to delve even deeper into these fascinating stories. So stay tuned.
Don't go anywhere. So before the break, we were talking about how China's economic slowdown is impacting tourism and travel trends.
Yeah, it's wild how something happening way over there can have such a big impact on the rest of the world.
It really is.
So is that working? Are they seeing an increase in tourists from that region?
They are. But there's a catch.
Oh, I knew there had to be a catch.
Well, it seems like even though the number of tourists from Southeast Asia is going up, they're not spending as much as tourists from other places like Europe or North America.
So more people, but less money. That doesn't sound like a great trade-off.
It's definitely a complex situation.
Yeah.
And it makes you wonder if this strategy is really sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, if you're relying on tourism to boost your economy, you need people who are going to spend money.
Right. And it also raises questions about how these shifting travel patterns might impact China's relationships with different countries.
That's a good point. It's not just about economics. It's about geopolitics, too.
Exactly. Everything is connected.
I feel like we've been all over the map today. Drones, wildfires, international intrigue, you name it.
I know, right? It's amazing how all these stories kind of tie together in the end.
That's the world we live in, right? Everything is connected.
So what are the big takeaways here? What do we want our listeners to remember?
Well, I think one of the most important things we talked about today is the role of technology and how it's shaping our world.
Yeah, that came up again and again, didn't it? With the drones, the undersea cables, even the efforts to combat climate change.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Technology can be used for good or for bad.
We need to be really careful about how we develop it and use it. Another big takeaway is the interconnectedness of everything.
Yeah, we saw that with China's economic slowdown and how it's impacting everything from tourism to global politics.
What happens in one part of the world can have ripple effects everywhere else.
And there's always more to discover.
Speaking of discovering, guess who just discovered the delights and perhaps the dangers of Taiwanese whiskey?
No way.
Our buddy Micky from Mickytolife is over in Taipei right now.
What's he doing there?
He's learning all about whiskey from a legendary expert named Steven.
Oh, wow.
And let me tell you, things are getting pretty hilarious over there.
Micky has a knack for finding himself in the most, shall we say, unexpected situations.
You know him always up for an adventure.
But hey, that's what makes his channel so entertaining.
He's not just reviewing whiskeys. He's sharing his experiences, his misadventures, and his genuine love for all things whiskey.
And isn't that what it's all about?
Okay.
Finding something you're passionate about
Yeah.
and sharing that passion with the world?
Preach. So, dear listeners, if you're looking for a laugh, a little whiskey knowledge, and a glimpse into the world of Taiwanese whiskey culture, head over to Mickytolife on YouTube.
You won't regret it.
And maybe even be inspired to try a new dram or two yourself.
Cheers to that.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, folks.
We'll see you next time for another journey into the news that matters. Until then, stay curious and keep those questions coming.